Because there's two trim lines. And one is like, Legos, something like that, but they're located in Smithville.
This one's not located. So cool. Yeah.
I thought it was the one that you came in. Oh my gosh.
Okay, good evening. It is 6 o'clock on March 18th. We will begin I'll call the Board of Aldermen meeting to order. Please stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we've got a relatively busy agenda for the next, I don't know, 2 meetings here. 6 items on today's work session agenda, as well as a pretty busy schedule for the regular meeting. So we'll try to move along sprightly through both of these meetings and hopefully get everybody home in a decent time and make sure we cover everything in the process. So first item up for discussion is an RVA from Alderman Johnson related to travel reimbursement. Alderman Johnson.
I would like to move that down in the agenda due to the fact that the full board's not here yet. So
We can revisit. Okay, we'll postpone. Okay, next up is 10 RVA. Item number 2 is 10 acres located on Post Road and Highway N, the city's 10 acres. That's a RVA from Alderman Detweiler and Alderman Johnson.
I asked Alderman Johnson to discuss this with me. I think that there is uses that the city could be doing with that 10 acres, rather than have it plowed and sowed in whatever the gentleman planned to do with it this year. I think it would be nice to use it as overflow for parking for Prairie Days, for the 4th of July, for possibly our concerts. And I don't know if, depending on what kind of spring and summer we have, if it stays dry, it would be fine. If not, then we would have to do something with possibly graveling part of it. But then I also thought that, it might be nice to have a market, kind of like Lake St. Louis has, where on a Saturday we have vendors come and have a market at that 10 acres. And it would at least put the ground to some sort of use for the city until we really knew what we want to do with it. And I don't think there would be a lot of maintenance to the 10 acres. So that's just my thoughts on it, but I wanted to bring this up because I don't want the gentleman, whoever he is, to go out and buy seed. And then we say, no, we're going to use these 10 acres. I think out of courtesy, we should at least let him know that we're going to possibly plan to do that and that we don't want it planted this year.
yes, I have to agree. Since we get no revenue from this 10 acres out there, we actually basically, and I didn't know, did you check in? Do we have a lease agreement with the farmer or anything on that piece of property? Mayor?
My understanding is it's just been a verbal
A verbal
understanding over all these
Okay, 'cause
years.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't into 199-year type, dollar lease type thing or something like that. It would have to look at. And I do think that if we put gravel or stuff in there, we might even be able to move the whole Prairie Days down there. I mean, it would eliminate from getting it off the street, have additional parking and stuff down there. I mean, it's just future stuff. I think we can come up with ideas to use that all together. The benefit to gravel in it would save it from, having to plow it all the time. I'm not plow it, but mow it all the time and stuff like that. That would be our additional expense now if we just leave it grass, is we're gonna have to mow it. But I do agree with Carl. We can use that property for something. And if nothing else, we plan on doing something with it down in the future.
Yeah, so this is also very relevant as well because after having some discussions with the church, I think that there are some, since our events have grown over the past several years on Saturdays, when our events are Prairie Day, the 4th of July, concerts, I think that there has been some indication that there might be roping off of the parking lot at ICD, so people going to 5 o'clock mass can park. So this is actually something that is not only I think a good idea and a good use of it, but it's relevant. And I believe it's necessary for parking for, as Carla was, Alderman Detweiler was saying, is all of our events, specifically moving forward, as we might see, we might see a little more resistance from our neighbors as our events have grown. And I know for Prairie Day last year, I noticed that there were people parking on all the way down the street here, almost really up to Feisey and going the other way. And they were parking in the church and all over the place. So parking is certainly very limited for these events when the crowds are full. So I think and we have 10 acres there, so I think it's the right move at the right time. Separately, I wanted to add too, I did a little bit of research on this as well. If you guys have ever gone to St. Charles County, the St. Charles County Fair, down there at the bottoms, they have this really I don't know how to describe it other than like a robust fescue. And then they cut it before the event. And then that's, so it's a large fields that have really tough fescue that can withstand, traffic over the period of time. And there's other parks. There's one in Eureka where they have a balloon and, hot air balloon day or something. And then everybody just drives out in this big field. So I think that's one area, we could do that relatively quickly without, going through the graveling part of it. I think there would have to be some culverts put in, and I would actually, want to ask Matt here to chime in a second, but I think we could quickly turn it around. And, it wouldn't have to be, cut every week is my thought on it. If we wanted to use it in a manner that was sort of aligned with, Prairie Day, 4th of July, and kind of cut it periodically. That way that we're not overwhelming our staff with a huge field that really isn't going to get used except for during events. But there's a couple of thoughts that I have on it, so I want to just continue to kick it around to the rest of the board if anybody else has any other thoughts, and then we'll ask Matt to chime in. Matt?
Yeah, so there's currently no curb cuts down there, so we'd have to put in approaches, probably at least 2 of them. Those would probably be like $30,000 to $50,000 total to put in approaches. And then for mowing, I think it's doable. I know the guys are pretty busy during Prairie Days and stuff, setting up the event. So possibly the additional seasonal mower work, getting ready to hire, maybe he could do that in his time if he has experience with the Steiner or the new brush hog attachment for the skid steer. But as for drainage, I'd have to take a look at it. I think most of it around there is kind of flat already. So I think that would be a little bit of an issue, trying to get some drainage to go if we're putting new approaches in.
I looked at it, it appeared to me as though it was kind of sloped from the corner of the road and going down, really sloped on all,
right.
90 degrees. Seems like there is a relative, it's not a steep grade, but it's a relatively decent existing slope that might be there, but there might be some flat spots more towards the middle that could.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking from the perspective of putting in those approaches. If there is any slight ditches near the roadway, you put in those approaches, and then we have to try to put in culverts, making sure it falls all the way to the creek without pooling.
Right.
But that's something we could look at.
So you think a culvert with gravel is going to be 30 to 52 culverts with gravel?
We're doing gravel,
We were to
like
put
approaches
gravel
off the roadways.
The road, or would that be?
We don't allow that in the city.
Okay.
We do concrete approaches
Okay.
or asphalt approaches.
Well, I've been downtown or at other events where they don't have normal use of parking in a lot or area, and you just pull up on the curb. Our curbs aren't that tall. I mean, I know it ideally that isn't what we would want full long term, but until we know what we're really going to do with this, I don't think there's very many vehicles that can't pull up on that curb at some point along that road. We wouldn't want them pulling in everywhere, but I think there could be a designated area, at least initially, to see, how this works and, get us through this year. I wouldn't want to spend $30,000 or $50,000 to cut a curb. I mean, I think that's a little extravagant for just something that we're just looking at, using and seeing how it works. So, but I do think that we should utilize that land. And I do think we should let the gentleman know if we are going to be using it right away, just so he doesn't have the expense of getting ready to plant on it and then we not want him doing that.
You said it was just a verbal agreement. Does he come and ask every year or does he just does it? I don't know. I mean, all I remember is we never got any revenue from it and nothing, but we ought to at least get something out of it.
I think the city saw it as we had no expense.
Yes, that was the benefit to it. We didn't have to maintain it. What it come down to.
You said a skid steer with a brush hog head. We don't have an actual brush hog or a lawnmower that would be.
We have the Steiner that's got the brush hog on the front of it as well.
Okay.
But in the budget this year was, we passed to buy the brush hog attachment for the skid steer as well. So we'll have 2 brush hogs.
Okay. Okay. What would the board like to move forward with an action or any sort of a plan now? Would the board like more information on what the options would be?
Well, I'd like to put a motion before the board to approve using those 10 acres, and that I don't know who, but someone letting the gentleman know that we plan to use it so that he can be spared the expense. That's my concern. If we continue to wait and wait and wait, then this guy's going to go ahead and, make his plans, and then we should have let him know before then. So
So with a motion to, if that, so I'm not sure if that was a formal motion or not. Can you clarify if that was a formal motion or that just what you
No.
intended to do?
no, I'd like to make a motion for the board to approve, letting the gentleman know that we plan to use the acreage this year and that we make plans to use it.
Second, the one thing I'd say is I agree with Carla, the
We need
50,
to-
the 30 to 50K for curb cuts seems a lot.
Okay, great. All right, go ahead.
Oh, I just said that I second it and I said, I do agree with Carla that the $30,000 to $50,000 for curb cuts seems like a lot.
I think that it would be, I think it would, with that, I would think that maybe we would ask for options to be presented to us.
Yeah.
By the city staff on what additional, kind of, I think Matt's got a good idea of what we're talking about. I think that, it sounds like you're kind of just coming off the cuff with some of that stuff. But maybe get a chance to go survey
From the past.
check the area, figure out if there's a more affordable way to approach that. So with that action would, we'll have Matt take that action. Well, with this vote, we'll have Matt take that action.
Mayor, I have a question, and if I can't ask questions, please let me know.
Yep.
I'm for Carla's move forward to use a park, if the individuals already made plans, what do we do with that? I just wanted to know.
So it's traditionally been a bean field every year. And beans don't normally get planted until late April because you want to make sure you're past the freeze.
Yeah.
So right now, we should be in good shape.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Detweiler, second by Alderman Gittmeyer. All in favor? Any opposed? None heard. Okay, moving on to, so direction's clear, city administrator, city engineer. Okay, all right. All right, so let's circle back to the first one, which is travel reimbursement by Alderman Johnson. He wanted to wait for the full board to get here before having this discussion. So Alderman Johnson, over to you for your RBA.
Yes, I was denied my travel reimbursement for this MML legislative conference. As you all got a copy of my RBA. It was a recommendation of the mayor to bring it to the full board in this public meeting and travel policy and reimbursement practices, since we're discussing that. So to explain the whole thing, this was an authorized MML legislative conference for elected officials that was budgeted in this year's budget. We have budgeted $23,000 for seminars and training in 2026, same as last year. I did not hear from any additional aldermen or administration that we're looking to attend additional seminars or trainings when we were in the meeting for the budget. As in the past, I was the only alderman attending the legislative conference the last 4 years. The last time the budget item was discussed with the board was 3 years ago, when the board increased travel and dues as the city became affiliated with the NLC. Past practice, the last 4 years, I have always booked myself and sometimes the mayor Gatway to conferences and was reimbursed, unless I was asked by the city clerk as she was making reservations for others going. No new policies or procedures have been put in place since this last administration. The reimbursements for my expenses to the NLC conference in November was under this administration and approved by the board. The only thing that had been brought to my attention was travel expense form that I was told by City Administrator Pratt that would be updated and brought before the board. Nothing had been presented to the board, but I did remember to ask the City Administrator Pratt for the form before turning in my expenses. Let's talk about the conference. I have talked about this conference in the past board meeting, encouraging aldermen to attend, especially the issues involving the city, explaining it was better to make appointments with your legislators before going to make sure you got to talk to them. It was announced at the last St. Charles MML meeting that I was willing to help anyone with scheduling meetings with their legislators. Why would anyone think I was not going? As I was elected to serve as director for the St. Charles County MML for Dardine Prairie, and I sit on the St. Charles County MML Legislative Committee. As most of you know, I have spent a lot of time in Jeff City, mainly fighting for the city of Dardine Prairie. I presented Resolution 399 in the last board meeting, speaking on Senate Bill 1065 on utility relocations. Why would you restrict an alderman from representing the citizens of the city of Dardine Prairie from going? It was brought up to me about going to the showcase cities in Jefferson City. I have attended this from the start 3 years ago, going early to meet with legislators on issues before the event, not charging the city for any expense. I tried to attend as many other events that I can represent the city and no expense to the city. The latest event, myself being the only representation for Dardine Prairie, was the STEM Awards presented by the EDC honoring the students of St. Charles County. Mayor Whitteman, City Administrator Kathy Pratt, and Alderman Ditwire attended the MLL conference in Jefferson City, with all expenses being paid for by the city. Mayor Whitteman spent the night but did not attend the second day of the conference. City Administrator Pratt left before the conference was over on the second day. I was fortunate enough to be invited to a dinner with Senator Beck in a private club 232, meeting up with other senators and discussing Senate Bill 1065 that it would affect the city of Dardine Prairie. Mayor Winterman, City Administrator Pratt, and Alderman Jedwire all could have attended the Wentzville School Board meeting update that they were all invited to, and Alderman Wilson brought to the board's attention in the prior board meeting. It was the morning of travel to the conference and on the way to Jefferson City. Myself, Alderman Wilson, and Alderman Walters were in attendance. Another question would be, why would the city be sending the city administrator to the conference as it had already received notice of her leaving? This should not have been denied by the city administrator, as all items submitted on the expense report were approved expenditures under the section travel 117.290. I would like for this board to approve my expenses for this conference.
Said your travel was authorized, Alderman Johnson. Can you please tell me who authorized the travel?
Authorization is when we're in the budget meeting. We authorized all these affiliate conferences that's what we budget that amount for. That dollar amount is budgeted to cover the expenses of the aldermen and staff going to conferences and such affiliations. It's just like I explained, we upped the budget 3 years ago when we affiliated with NLC. This board is the one that authorized and approved travel expense.
In the last 2 years prior to this year's legislative conference, how many other aldermen attended with you?
The legislative conference?
Correct.
None.
And do you remember why that is?
I guess they didn't want to go.
Any other board members remember why that is?
I remember. Yeah. We were told by Mayor Gotway that he was taking Mark Johnson and nobody else needed to go. We didn't need to have a bunch of aldermen going to the meeting. Distinctly remember that.
His reasoning was, we don't want to crowd the room of the representatives when we go down there. So the historical precedent has been set that the mayor selected who went because of the specific reason that the previous mayor only took you, which is because we didn't want to crowd the room with a bunch of aldermen when we were visiting. That's the words he used in the last 2 years consecutively, because there were requests to go, but they were denied. So that's the reason why he not only did not authorize, he denied aldermen who wanted to go.
And if I would have known about that, that was wrong. As you heard me in these meetings before, I encouraged everyone to go to meet with representatives. It's not only just our representatives that we have here, as I'm meeting with other senators in other counties that also vote on these issues. And that's why we need to go and meet with as many people as we can get to. That being said, I never knew that the mayor ever denied anyone going to any of the conference.
That
was never brought up in our budgets meetings, which should have been brought up in those. But we as a board approved that budget to go to those meetings. And I would be upset that knowing that the mayor did what he did, because how do you pick one alderman over another alderman to go to these things? That's not right.
He publicly did it with
did.
you next to him on the dais,
Yeah.
Alderman Johnson.
Yeah.
And he publicly denied
No.
other aldermen on this dais to go for multiple years in a row.
So if you knew all this, why didn't you bring this to my attention? Why didn't somebody bring this to my attention while I was checking into the hotel room?
Well, I didn't see you checking into the hotel
Kathy
room.
Pratt was right there waiting with me, checking into the hotel
And
room.
at that point, if you're already down there, what does it matter?
I could have went home if I knew I wasn't getting reimbursed for it.
I have some questions about some of the forms. On the travel reimbursement request form, where is the cost for attending the conference?
Well,
Why is
that
that-
was sent to me, a notice was sent to me a week before the conference happened. It was found out now that that wasn't sent directly to the city. Why it wasn't sent directly to the city, I don't know.
So
That normally I would have CC'd the city and sent it to the city right away.
well, who paid for that? Did you pay for that personally?
Well,
And if you
Apparent-
did, if you did,
apparently the city directed them to bill me directly.
so
Which is
if,
totally wrong because you're controlling the legislative process. And I think that's totally against controlling the legislative process by eliminating and denying people to go.
so if you listed the hotel and the mileage, why did you not list the cost of attending the conference?
Because at the time I didn't have it. As far as I knew, the city was being billed the
Mhm.
conference. I did not have that.
Are you going to submit that?
Well, I'm asking for all my expenses to be paid for.
Yeah, but it's not listed there,
Well,
so.
I understand that. I guess if you approve all my expenses, it would be added on. But I think that's just totally wrong, especially if you knew this was gonna be process happen. That now you're trying to control me and what I'm doing, and I haven't been doing anything different than what I've normally done. I mean, I agree with this travel policy that we have coming up. We need something in place. I also agree that on going to some conferences, if you go to one, you can't go to the other one or whatever to control budgets. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay, I
It's
have
just that I was blindsided on this one.
I have a question about the hotel bill. The rate seems higher than what the other people were charged that attended from the city. And of course, there's tax, and it should have been tax exempt.
And I learned about that just recently. I was never given that information before. To take a tax exempt, I guess, letter with me or whatever. Nobody has ever explained that to me before. It wasn't done with any of my bills in the past.
Okay, what about the higher cost? Why did you not get the same rate that the others got?
I don't know. I booked it under the conference and that's what they gave me. That's what they said the rate was.
Okay, and I just have a comment about we need to have a system of checks and balances. For example, segregation of duties is critical. Internal controls are an important accounting principle, and an accounting audit does look at internal controls. And yes, I realize it's harder to have really strong internal controls when you have a smaller staff because you're not able a lot of times to do the segregation of duties. We need to run the city like a business, including the requirement to get approval or authorization before incurring an expense. Employees cannot spend money just because it is in the budget. Neither should we. That's all I have.
Can I ask a question then? Is the policy the same that we've had? You know, I was on board about 5 years ago. Is the policy the same? Anybody know if it's changed?
Policy's the same. There was no actual policy. It was just under travel expense 117.290.
Right, but there was a policy that we had that said that the mayor was the one who handled that. It's not something we're gonna pass a bill on or anything like that. It's just a policy. He's the one that just it's his discretion. And then we were led to understand then that if you wanted to go to the municipal league, you would ask and you would say yes or no.
And if there's a policy, I've never been presented one in the 4 years I've been here. Okay. And that being said, when I come to these meetings and I encourage people to go, and I'm looking for other aldermen to go and all that stuff, why would you think I wasn't planning on going? I mean, it would have been nice if I had a heads up. No, we're not going to take you. We're only taking Alderman Didweiler. And I would have known something.
Okay, well,
But,
that's
I
neither
mean,
here nor there.
Well,
Policy is that you get
no,
approval.
there wasn't a
Or-
policy here.
There was a.
Do you
policy.
have one?
Is it written?
No, it's not written. It's never been written. It's at the
If it's
discretion
not
of the
written,
mayor.
there's.
But there hasn't been one in the last 4 years that I've been here.
Okay, and so we can
So-
blame Mayor Gottlieb. He should have clearly stated what his policy, because it can change from mayor to mayor.
I understand that,
Okay,
but I shouldn't be punished for something that wasn't in place. There was no policy in place.
well, I think we're assuming that we were working under the same policy.
There was no policy presented to us from the new mayor.
Can I ask if all these other, you said all these other trips that you've taken in the past, there was never a problem. Was there any occasion where the city administrator nor the mayor were informed that you were independently traveling? Or did the mayor and the city administrator or the city clerk know?
After the first year, well, they knew eventually, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I talked about it just like I talked about on this dais about going to Jeff City. I talked about it. I encouraged other aldermen to go. You knew I was gonna go.
That was in January. That was in the January. That's the only time I remember you talking about going to Jeff City was for the January trip you went. And I believe you were reimbursed for that trip. The
What?
mileage for the trip in January. You went to Jeff City in January?
No, not, I didn't get reimbursed for,
It was the 26th of January. You drove down there.
I don't remember. I have to go back to the calendar.
There was also another trip to the National League of Cities that nobody knew from the city staff that you were going to that until you got back. That was something that was
No,
reimbursed as well. There was no notification to the city administrator or the mayor or the city clerk that travel was going to take place, but it came to my desk and I approved it anyway because it was something that had done previously.
so then let me stop you there. Why wasn't I spoken to at that point? Why did you let me incur another expense that you knew you weren't gonna approve? I
Because
mean,
there was an historical precedent that only one alderman goes to the National League of Cities, Alderman Johnson.
but why,
When you were down, when you showed up down there, it was a surprise. But
but
we could-
after the National League of Cities, why was I not spoken to when you said you had no idea I was going in? I mean, this is all blindsiding. This is no, I mean, there was a lot of people at the St. Charles MMO knowing that I'm helping other people set up meeting dates and everything else. Where was the intent that I was hiding anything except for
when
telling?
was the first time that you stopped telling the city administrator and the mayor and the city staff that you were going to take trips to conferences? When did that start? Because you said that.
Kathy Pratt knew I was going to the NLC because I brought it up to her. Because we talked about to her, had a conversation, and at the one time, Alderman Ryan Wilson was thinking about going. So it was a verbal discussion there. There wasn't anything in a public meeting. It's just a blind side on this.
Well,
And once again, you're restricting, political legislative issues.
this is more of a budgetary issue more than anything. And as a mayor, it's something that is in my responsibility to sort of look out for this as well. In the last 2 years, in 24 and 25, overall spending on conferences for the city to include staff and aldermen amounted to just under $35,000. 25.5% of that was for one person. 25.5% was for one person's travel. And that's what we're trying to shore up here, is that when people just independently want to go and travel without notifying the city and then giving the bill to the city for their travels to whatever conferences they feel is appropriate. And that is the reason why I presented the policy in the last meeting to help mediate that.
Once again,
If
why
the
was
board-
this not brought before me ahead of time? I mean, you're bringing up all these good points. I'm not arguing with you. It's just that I was not informed of this information, nor I don't think anybody on the rest of this board was informed of all this. I mean, you're bringing up policies and changes that I don't believe anybody on this other board, unless they want to speak up and talk about it, that knew about all these policy changes and that here.
It was presented to the board in the last meeting and through an
Yes.
RBA about travel policy changes. And I discussed in that meeting exactly what I just said.
Yes, 2 weeks ago. But before that, was anybody informed of this stuff? I mean, I would have been glad to know
There
that.
weren't people that were independently traveling on their own accord without informing the city staff and just kind of going at their leisure to whatever conferences they wanted. All the conferences prior to that had been approved through the city.
Hey, can I add one thing? I was aware of the policy, the way the policy was for my 4 years on the board then. And I assumed that there has been no change. So I would have assumed that when you first came in on the board, they introduced this to you.
No, they didn't. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Who didn't?
Anybody, whether it was the mayor or anybody, there wasn't any policy put forth. I was told if you want to go, you can go. That's what we approved the budget for people to go to these events.
Well, let's straighten one thing out. Because it's budgeted does not mean it's approved. Those are two separate items.
Right, and
We
the
put the
board,
budget in
and-
case we wanted it. We put the budget in for a new lawn tractor because we might need it. That doesn't mean that we expect the the maintenance to go out and buy the tractor. That's not what that means. It means we go through a process to approve all of these things. And that needs to be clear. And
Right, and I
Mark,
was
you've been
not,
on the board for
I-
too long to not know this.
and I haven't, there was never an issue before on any of this, okay?
Because
So-
Gotway was mayor and he took you.
I don't recall that happened. I really don't, I'll be honest. And I would have voiced my opinion a bit against that because I think everybody should go. This is not a big expense that we're talking about here. But then again, we can go out and buy a treadmill for $2,000. That, that just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Well, but this is a principle.
That's fine. I'm happy with a policy put in place and what we're gonna discuss and how we're gonna go forward. I'm excited about it. I
Alderman
think it's
Johnson.
great. I'm not
Not a
arguing.
big expense. 25.5% of the travel.
This, I'm
budget
talking
has
about
been
this
from you
trip
for the
right
last
now.
2 years. You
Okay.
account for over 25% of the travel budget for all staff and aldermen, all staff and elected officials. So saying it's not a big expense is something I don't agree
I'm
with.
talking about this expense right here for this trip.
I'd like to entertain a motion for a vote to pay for Alderman Johnson's travel for this trip.
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Alderman Nay, second by Alderman Johnson. Roll call vote, please.
aye.
Take the motion again. Nay.
Aye.
Alderman Detweiler.
I heard you. I'm gonna say nay.
Alderman Wilson.
Give me a second. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mayor. Give me a second. Um,
Alderman Wilson?
Nay, sorry.
Nay?
Mm.
Okay,
Sorry, I missed nay.
he said nay.
4 nays, 2 yeas.
Okay, moving on. Item number 3 on the agenda this evening is the school resource officer for Immaculate Conception of Garden Prairie City Administrator.
Thank you. At the 2026 budget work session, the board approved funding to support a school resource officer for private schools on an 80-20 cost share basis. Immaculate Conception of Dardenne has requested the city's support funding and SRO. The budget allocation that was approved for this purpose totals $21,564. Based on the finalized cost structure provided by St. Charles County Police Department for the SRO position, the city's 20% funding share for the officer would be $23,672 for 2026. And as I've mentioned, the budgeted amount was $21,564. So it's $2,100, $2,108 less than the calculated 20% cost share. So the current adopted budget does not fully fund a 20% share for the ICD for ICD's SRO. So to ensure the city fulfills a 20% funding commitment for the SRO, a budget adjustment would be needed to increase the appropriation and cover the difference. So my request to the board is, do you want to approve the funding for the SRO, and do you want to approve it at the budgeted amount of 21,000 or at the stated intent, which was a 20% funding share, which would be the 23,000?
Is there a reason why the cost came in so much higher? than what we anticipated?
So at the time we were budgeting, we were using cost estimates based on early discussions with ICD. And then, they just now finalized a contract and it's a little bit more. One thing I think is important to note, and I know ICD appreciates this, but the county negotiated with them to only charge them for the school year. So they don't have to pay for the officer for the whole year. The county's going to pick up the additional expense for the summer months. But it's just a budget timing. We were working off estimates we had at the time.
So, go ahead.
I do have a question. What about the other school on Highway N in Ward 2? The small school, what about that school? Are they a part of this as well too? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the
You're
school.
fine. At the time that
Yes, ma'am.
the board, we had the work session discussion, my understanding was that this was for private schools. So plural, if a private school was hiring an SRO, the city was willing to cost share. So C, the ICD share would take up more than what was budgeted. So if another private school was to approach the city for SRO funding, you would need to do another budget adjustment if you wanted to support that.
If they wanted to, if the school wanted it,
Mhm.
correct?
I've not heard of any discussions with other private schools. The private schools have not approached the city to say, would you help out? Or we were interested in this. There were early discussions with ICD related to that.
Thank you.
So ICD school, how many entrances actually does the school have? Does it just, I don't know, other than the one I see over here to the
Mm.
gym part, but
The doors to access the building.
I get it on good authority. There's 5.
what do they have now to secure those doors? Are they secured like our school doors are from the outside?
Officer Van Dusen, you can come to the front.
Top.
Microphone's over here. Please use it. Well, we need it recorded, yep.
Okay, oh, that's loud, holy smokes. So the school doors now automatically lock with a buzzer system. So anytime you want to go into the school, you hit a buzzer, you just get seen on camera and the front desk will allow you to come in. That's for the main 2 doors, and then the other doors are just automatically locked from the outside. That's your question.
I think that if the school has not previously had an SRO, and from my understanding, there was a church shooting, I believe it was in Minnesota last year. There was a shooting of a Catholic grade school, and I believe they were targeted while they were transitioning from church to the school. Following that, I think that there was a lot more discussion in the Catholic school systems specifically about the need for an SRO. And in that, it was a pretty high profile incident. And that's what I believe spawned this discussion with the school. Specifically, other cities like our neighboring city, O'Fallon, actually pays, I believe, just they provide a officer at a steeply discounted rate they have their own police department, so they can do that. They just send a resource officer from their city police department, and that's very common, I think, around here. But because of Darden Prairie's contract with the county and the way our police are structured, we don't. The board and the city can't just offer a discounted rate to the police to the school. So they at that point went to get a contract, and that's how this all. Just as a refresher for the board of the genesis of this and why it's in here. And I think that it was kind of in that same model of some of the other cities offering their internal police department resources at a discounted rate. It's the similar kind of a concept. In this case, if we were to move forward, it sounds like there are two options. One would be to approve the additional, was it $2,000, $2,100, opposed to what was budgeted, which was 20,000, it would be $22,100. Or the board could approve the board could approve what was already approved in the budget, or the board could not move forward with funding. So I think those are the options that we're looking at right now from the board from this perspective. City Administrator, can you correct me if I'm missing anything there? Okay.
I'm all in favor of taking care of our residents and the children and all that. I just hope we don't open up a can of worms and next thing you know, you got daycares coming, we got grocery stores, we got businesses coming, all looking for a police officer. So I just think we have to be careful when we start doing these kind of things.
Any further discussion on the?
I just have one question. Kathy, do you think they would, with the price going up, do you think price will go even more next year? And are we budgeting, are we going to plan for that from the prior next couple years?
Yeah, I would say that the county contracts consistently go up year to year, so we would anticipate that it would.
Thank you.
I think we put a good amount in the budget for this. And I understand that the amount came in more than what we put in the budget, but I just like to keep it with what's in the budget. I mean, I think, that's quite a bit for us to put out. And I understand that, obviously children in the city are important. But I also feel like that the amount that we're giving is significant for a city our size. And if we expect it to go up next year, then we need to do something to help supplement that. Because we can't just continue to go more and more and more every year. So that's just my thought.
So any further discussion? Otherwise, would you like to make a motion accordingly, Alderman? Entertain a motion to.
Yeah, I entertain a motion to keep the budgeted amount the same. And we will reconsider the amount next year at budget time for going maybe to the 20%. But this year, I'd like to keep it what's budgeted.
Clarification, you're making a motion to move
Making a
forward with the
motion.
amount that is currently budgeted.
Currently budgeted.
Motion by Alderman Detweiler,
Second.
second by Alderman Gittmeyer. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Any opposed? None heard. The ayes have it. Okay, moving on to item number 4, RBA for cleaning service for the city. City engineer.
The city issued bid form 26001 for janitorial and cleaning services to provide routine cleaning services, city hall and public works facilities. The scope includes full janitorial services, things like trash removal, dusting, vacuuming, mopping, restroom cleaning and restocking, break room cleaning, general surface and glass cleaning. It also includes optional services such as floor waxing, carpet cleaning, and any as needed or emergency cleanup. The service plan is set up with weekly routine cleaning along with a more detailed deep cleaning every 2 months. This gives us a consistent baseline level of cleanliness while still allowing flexibility depending on needs and budgets. The city received 3 bids in response to the solicitation. The submitted weekly services rates for 2026 are as follows. SRB Cleaning Solutions LLC at $300 per service, Green and Clean Commercial at $344 per service, and Citywide Cleaning Company at $455 per service. Following the review of pricing, proposal documentation, and overall value to the city, SRB Cleaning Service Solutions LLC was determined to be the lowest responsible bidder. Staff recommends awarding the janitorial and cleaning services contract to SRB Cleaning Solutions LLC, utilizing the weekly service rate included in their proposal. Funding the janitorial services identified in the fiscal year 2026 budget under property maintenance and supplies. The budget available is $6,400, and we are requesting $12,000. The $12,000 comes from the weekly service rate of $300 times the remaining 40 weeks of the year. Any expenditures exceeding the currently budgeted amount will be accommodated through future budget adjustments. Actual expenditures will vary depending on service frequency and any additional requested services. Any questions?
Who's doing our cleaning now?
Our guys, while it's winter time. It used to be our part-time guy. Since we restructured and got rid of the part-time people, our current public works / parks people over the winter have been cleaning the bathrooms and building.
And we can't keep that up any way possible, or do
They have a full workload when it comes to summer of mowing and street maintenance. They're even having a hard time right now balancing facilities maintenance with public works, since we are just down to 2 staff.
I'm sorry, and then we cut off, correct me if I'm wrong, we cut off the part-time worker. So is this in replace of the part-time worker? Is that in line with the budget?
This is to replace the part-time staff.
How much was budget for the part-time? Can anybody tell me? I'm sorry, this is the question. I just thought about this. So,
I know our part-time worker was contracted at 24 hours a week for the entire year. And I don't know exactly what he was being paid.
I don't know off the top of my head either. This was discussed during the budget work session. The recommendation to eliminate the part-time position, to convert it to a full-time position, convert one of we had 2 part-time, eliminate 1 part-time, convert 1 part-time to 1 full-time, and to hire an outside service for cleaning.
guess what I'm saying is I feel more comfortable with this number if I knew there was money allotted to this in somewhere else. Maybe I just didn't, it's not on here on this document here.
Mhm.
That's why I was saying, I just feel more comfortable with that. And I think you guys are saying it correctly. I just want to know the amount so I can feel comfortable. That's,
All right, yeah,
is that respectful?
yeah,
Okay.
we'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
So
So if I-
okay.
So if I understand, you're asking if we have other budgeted funds that can be used to.
Yes,
fund.
yes, that's all I'm asking. I just feel more comfortable that way.
We need to.
And I think part of the concern is the fact that the numbers are so different. Budget available 6,400, requested 12 grand.
That's an engineer, not an accountant. No. Staff does their best at the time that they're budgeting,
We're not.
to try to guess. Yeah, no, I know, to try to figure it, not guess, but to try to do a calculated estimate. And yes, it's unfortunate. It looks like this one was under. And
By quite a bit, yeah.
So is the request from the board to move forward, but utilize other budgeted funds within the, where's it at? Property and maintenance budget?
I just have a question. And I don't know with the 4 newer people sitting over there, if anybody knows, but I think we used to have
We
a
did.
cleaning service.
Yeah, it was actually,
Because they would
The-
clean while we had board meetings,
Yeah.
like vacuuming upstairs. So what happened to them? I mean,
from what I've heard, since I wasn't here, is their service was not up to par with what we were expecting. So we pushed them out and had one of our part-timers from Parks start covering the building clean up.
So could that be where you were getting your $6,400?
No, I think this was just an estimate.
Okay, all right.
This was not from past data.
Okay. So
I don't want to see us make a rash decision here
is there-
about postponing it for 2 weeks.
table this until the next meeting and the city can do a little more research and come back with
Thank you,
the.
Mayor.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on from that with that guidance from the board. And then lastly, we have the travel policy update, city administrator.
Thank you. Is at the last board meeting, we had quite a bit of discussion related to the travel policy. Well, I also want to thank Alderman Gettermeyer for providing some thoughts and sharing some best practices related to travel. Randy had an opportunity to try to update that into a more comprehensive travel policy. To share with you, our current travel policy is 2 paragraphs, and I think this is 3 pages. She's also created standard forms for expense reimbursement and for requesting the travel, so that it's a clear authorization process and a clear expense reporting process. And she's made it easy with fill in the blanks and calculations automatic and things like that. So she's done a lot of hard work on this. We realize you're just getting it now, and don't expect to have any feedback from you, but wanted you to know we were continuing to work on it, and we have this draft for your review. We could discuss it at the next meeting and move forward. The final step in this would be to have an authorizing ordinance to update our policy officially.
I want to thank the alderman who did offer some input for this policy as well. Appreciate that. And before we move forward, any other questions or discussion around the policy that has been put together?
I have a comment because one of the things that I said would be real helpful, Debbie just did, where she gave us a copy of the itinerary for the webinar that she attended, and it's in the conference agenda. So it's very helpful to see that and to get her feedback, especially in written form. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. All right. Interest of time, one last, see if there are any go backs on the travel policy. None heard. So the direction on this would be to push it forward to the next meeting for a, put it on the agenda for the next meeting in the regular session. Any objections to that? None heard. Okay. All right. So moving on, the last item is the review of the tonight's regular Board of Aldermen agenda. Any questions, concerns, discussion points for the regular agenda for this evening? None heard. It is 3 minutes till 7 o'clock. We have a full house here. So in the interest of time, I'd like to postpone staff communications to the regular end of the regular session and entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Gittlemeyer, second by, oh, I'm sorry.
For under new business item 2, I need 2 readings. I'd request 2 readings.
Okay. And the regular session? Yeah.
In the
okay.
regular session.
Understood. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. This meeting's adjourned. We'll reconvene in about 5 minutes for the regular meeting. Thank you.